This video has been inspired by multiple viewers sending me a variety of different questions about bathroom remodeling and some of the damage they have actually created from the process. So I'm just going to throw out a few things that they must not be teaching at your local do-it-yourself bathroom remodeling university. So first up on the list will be that we need to protect everything we possibly can that we are not going to be replacing. And this would include any floors and carpeting. And again, if you don't have any drop cloths, throw some towels down. And I'm not about to suggest using the best family towels you have. If you don't have anything, then go down and buy a drop cloth to protect what you want to protect. Because trust me, when you drop some ABS glue right here, or you spend a week and a half or a month, however long it's going to take you remodeling your bathroom, and you're walking and grinding the dirt and the grime into here, yes, now you're going to be replacing the flooring. Next up on the list, we have a toilet. Once you pull the toilet off, the water that is trapped inside of here will leak out of it. So make sure that you have some towels around the base of the toilet so that when the water falls out, you can actually soak it up. And if you need some extra room, put the toilet in your bathtub. Just make sure that you have a towel under the toilet if you are going to save the bathtub. And this was often something I would do if I worked on a house that only had one toilet, because I could simply take the toilet out of the bathtub, place it over the drainage hole, hook up the water supply, use it, and then remove it and put it back in the bathtub. But again, there are other options for that also, like portable outhouses. Next up on the list, I need to point out that if you have any wood paneling covering your walls, then you should be prepared for some type of damage, whether or not the paneling is nailed, screwed, or glued onto the drywall. And in some cases, you're going to find large holes where somebody removed some of the drywall, did some plumbing work, and then put some paneling over it. So if you have any type of paneling or wainscoting like this, then be prepared for some type of damage that might need to be repaired after you remove it. Next up, it wouldn't be a bad idea to put a plastic bag around anything that needs to be protected, like the water supply line, because you don't want any debris to get in here. And this seems to be another common problem I run into often with do-it-yourselfers, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a little bit of debris in here, hook the toilet back up, and then that debris is going to get shot right into the toilet valve and probably cause it to start leaking. Next up, make sure that you install all backing for towel bars and toilet paper holders, because the last thing you want to do is cover everything up and then go to attach your toilet paper holder to the wall and then find out that the drywall by itself isn't going to hold it up. Now, I'm not about to suggest that you can't use some type of plastic anchors, but I am going to suggest that the backing is usually going to be the best alternative. And if you're in a hurry while doing the demo, you can plan on something like this happening, because there was so much silicone sealant on here, which tells me that they must have had a water leak here. And of course they did have a water leak there, because when I went to pull the wainscoting off of this section, it was wet in this corner. But that's not why the green arrow's there. It's there to show you the top layer of the vinyl flooring that got ripped off. And if you're working on someone's house and they didn't want this to happen, and you can't find a piece that's going to satisfy them as a replacement, then you might be replacing the entire floor. And of course, this was the first time something like this happened to me, but this doesn't mean it won't happen to somebody else watching this video. Next up, make sure that you use something to cover the toilet drain hole, because it is quite large and you could see where a tool like this could easily fall into it. And if something falls beyond your reach, well, then I don't need to paint you a picture of just how much of a problem that could be. Next up, be prepared for old wires that don't have grounding wires in it. So here we can see a ground wire, a hot wire, and the white as a neutral wire. So if these wires need to be replaced for whatever reason, mainly because they don't have ground wires on them, then you need to make sure that this is done before you do any patching to the drywall. Next up on the list, some of the older box boxes that I've encountered over time do become brittle and break easy, or end up having problems where the holes for the screws that attach the light fixtures to the wall end up being stripped out. So it might not be a bad idea to replace some of the older light fixture boxes. Next, make sure that you have the correct sized electrical boxes. For example, if you're going to have 2 light switches, then you're going to need an electrical box that has room for 2 switches. And another thing you might think about, if you don't have room for another electrical outlet in your design, then you might be able to simply add it to this box. So instead of using a 2-gang box, you will get a 3-gang box for 2 switches and 1 outlet. Next up, try to avoid drilling unnecessary holes. And if you can use an existing hole that's already drilled into the wall framing or any of the other framing components, then reuse it for your electrical wires, plumbing pipes, or any type of heating ducting. And a lot of these problems are created from people who don't bother planning out the project. And this should be the number one thing you take away from the video, and that will be any type of planning you can possibly make to reduce the amount of problems you're going to run into. Needs to be done before the project and not during the project or after the project. Next up, let's try to avoid cutting into the wood framing. Now, even though this isn't going to be a big deal, it's less than a 32nd of an inch, it looks like. And of course, I'm the person who put it there, so I can't beat myself up on this one. However, I have been watching some home remodeling programs on a variety of different networks, and I'm here to tell you that if you don't know what's behind the drywall, then don't grab a circular saw, don't grab a reciprocating saw, and don't use a sledgehammer to figure out what's behind there. And this translates to do whatever you possibly can to create some type of a hole to where maybe you can look into the wall before grabbing anything like a sledgehammer and beating into it and breaking one of your plumbing pipes or cutting through one of your electrical wires. Next up, if you are going to be removing a ceiling and you can't see what's behind it, then just be careful because it might have loose rock wool insulation or a type of insulation that might actually be harmful to you. And if you're working in a small area like a bathroom and you don't have any ventilation in it, then make sure that you have some type of a mask on that will prevent that stuff from getting into your lungs. And I would like to suggest using some type of a fan in a window to blow all of this stuff out. However, this could be a problem if any of this stuff is harmful to you or to the environment, so I'm not going to suggest that. Next up on the list, and this is just like the old electrical boxes, and that would be to think about removing any of the old ventilation fans, or in some cases you might have some type of a heater, and replacing them with more of an updated version. Next, let's make sure that you're actually venting all of the exhaust from the bathroom out of the house and not into the attic. And like this one here, you might have to get creative every once in a while to make it fit. And if you don't want to have any insects or other creatures living in your attic, then make sure that you put some type of protective screening to prevent them from entering into your attic. And here's another thing most professional builders, contractors, and even someone like myself don't think about, and that will be whether or not any of the items you install in your bathroom have inexpensive or even any replacement parts available. Or at the very least, make sure that anything you're going to be burying into a wall behind tile, like a shower or bathtub valve, can be repaired easily. And of course, here's another thing that we forget to do. That would be to follow all of your installation instructions and use approved electrical connectors. And when I'm saying to use approved electrical connectors, this might not mean that you can use anything they sell at your local lumberyard or home improvement center. And to find out what you can or cannot use, you might need to contact your local building department. And of course, it's always going to be helpful to have backing in here for drywall, or if you need additional structural support for your ceiling fan. And even though I'm not going to be installing insulation in here because this is just a temporary repair, because I'm actually planning this out, I know this is hard to imagine, but eventually I'm going to remove the ceiling ceiling and remodel the entire bathroom. However, since my wife got tired of the fan not working and some of the other stuff in the bathroom that wasn't looking very nice, I had to go in and do some peacekeeping within the family and fix some of this stuff. Now, for those of you wondering why I have the word inspector here, this is simple because this is something that an inspector is going to be able to look up and see that there is no insulation up here. So if you are dealing with a building inspector and you think you can get away with some stuff, then you better think twice. Or at the very least, make sure that they can't see something like this. And a quick tip for those of you who don't have much experience finishing drywall, then I would like to point out that less might be better, or use fast setting plaster, because it's not uncommon for me to see people come in and just put big gobs of drywall mud on here to cover everything up and then go back with a power sander and sand it down. That just doesn't make any sense. So definitely something else to consider. And this is one of my favorite tips, and another video that did pretty good on my channel would be to use caulking in the corners if you're going to be removing some of the drywall later. Now, even though I made this video as a temporary way to patch something like this up, I've had a lot of people comment and tell me that this is actually something they're doing as a different way to finish the corners, as a permanent fix, not as a temporary repair. And for those of you wondering if I had any problems with this while we waited the few years to remodel the bathroom, then the answer is no, I didn't. And the caulking worked perfectly fine. And with that said, I am going to go ahead and end the video here. However, I am planning on making a few more of these videos, and for a variety of different repairs and remodeling projects. So if you like this video, let us know by hitting the thumbs up button. And if you want to see more videos like these, then make sure you let us know in the comment area.